What is going on, you guys? Today I have another episode for you where I'm going to be reviewing a YouTuber named Ed Milet, and the title here is How to Just Start, How to Have a Success Formula, and also Finding and Having a Mentor. Let's get into it.
But you have this thing that I think to the extent that someone has this thing I'm going to ask you about before we get into how you end up getting your first client, which is the best story of all time. But I think all successful people on some level, and to the extent you are successful is the extent you have this thing, which is that you're willing to step into spaces you are ill prepared for. So it seems to me like you're willing to, you kind of think like, if I get my foot in the door, then I'll figure this stuff out, right?
Yes.
Whereas what most people do, and this is killing you, by the way, I won't step into the door until I'm completely prepared, which is a total fallacy anyways as an entrepreneur,
Right.
for sure, or wanting to become a rapper or have a music career or an artist or anything great. If you're waiting for a threshold of, I need to be totally prepared, then I'll step in the door, you will be on the other side of the door the rest of your life. So talk about that. You have this sort of thing about you, you'll figure it out once you get in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so good. I mean, he's going to talk about it here. You can't be a perfectionist. You can't, wait for the right time, the perfect time. There's never a perfect time. There's a decent time, and that's when you can get your foot in the door, like he's saying, and just start. The overthinking is going to keep you from the success you could really have your entire life. So I love that he's bringing this up.
Well, first of all, nothing happens if you don't get into the door. So you have to figure out how to get in the door.
Right.
And I've always trusted the process that I'd be able to figure it out. But like the common thread throughout my journey as an entrepreneur in everything is I had no prior experience in anything that I did. And for me, that was the greatest blessing. Because for me, it meant rip up the playbook. No one taught me how to do it. So the whole industry was operating the same way. And I always say to my employees, Sarah, my wife does the same thing, if no one taught you how to do your job, how would you do it? Like if you ripped up the playbook and you said, like, how would I treat my customer? How would I go after and pitch this? That's where innovation comes from. That's where innovation comes from. Everybody else in the space, they were doing the same playbook. All the brochures looked the same, and we didn't know anything. We didn't know anything. So for us, it was a greatest blessing. So I think experience is overrated. It's important, but it takes so damn long.
Yes.
And like if we would have waited to get 3 years on the line, and there would have been 4 other jet companies, and we would have never have done it. So
Wow, that's so true.
you got to start the process. As an entrepreneur, I think like the number one thing is start. You never have it all figured out. It's never the right time. You never have enough experience.
Yeah.
But if you let that slow you down until it's the right time and the right experience, come on, man, the world's so fast.
So you're telling me
You can't just keep kicking and screaming like, oh, I'm not ready, but I'm not ready yet. Eventually you have to just start. And you and I both know that.
you did not know a lot about the rap game before you got in it. You didn't know a lot about the writing lyrics game before that. You didn't know a lot. Just listen to this, everybody. You didn't know a lot about the coconut water business before you got in, the jet business before you got in it, or the NBA before you got in it.
I would say nothing.
Literally
I wouldn't say
nothing.
not a lot. I would say nothing.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
I absolutely
And look,
love it.
I was fortunate. We were able to, as soon as we were able to afford to bring in people that
Yes.
knew more, we were able to scale it.
Yep.
And but we started everything very small. We always thought really big. And once we got momentum, we were able to ramp it up super fast. The only way that I could really find, I had to go where wealthy people were. And I heard about this conference called TED in Monterey, California when they were first starting out that was attracting all these tech guys and well-off folks, et cetera. So my partner's like, you got to go to the TED conference in Monterey, California. So I think I connected through Chicago into LA. It's a 5-hour car ride to Monterey, California. It was a 16-hour journey. And I get there, and as soon as I get there, everybody, it's like Fort Knox. I didn't have a credential to get in. So you couldn't go anywhere near the conference. So I'm like, man, I just flew 16 hours. I can't go in. I'm so frustrated. But it smelled like there was a sale there somewhere. So I'm like, let me go into the little coffee shop over here and try to figure this out. And I'm sitting in the coffee shop, and about 20 minutes into my sitting there kind of thinking, God, how am I gonna do this? A wave of people with credentials come in and they're ordering lattes and muffins. Okay. And I realized that they must be on coffee break from in between speakers at the tech conference. So they're all ordering lattes and muffins, latte and muffins. So the next morning, I show up at 5 o'clock, first one there as soon as they open, and I buy every single muffin. I control all the muffin inventory in Monterey, California. I bought every muffin. And when the first wave of folks come in, they're like, can I order a latte and a muffin? Like, you can have a latte, but we're all out of muffins. And as they would walk out, I would say, excuse me, I have the muffin with my office here. We have all the muffins. And would you like a muffin? No, yeah. What do you do? Next thing you know, I'm in a conversation with someone. He's like, and he asked me what I did. And I said, well, I have a private jet company called Marquis Jet. And the guy who just sold this company called half.com to eBay. Okay. And he said, well, I'm actually interested in a private jet. Awesome. Would you mind if I sit down and talk to you about it? And I was like, absolutely.
Yes.
I'm like, please sit down. You can have 2 muffins. And we started talking, and here's what's interesting. And here's how I built my career. He ended up being my first customer.
Unbelievable.
But he was the key because I serviced the hell out of him. Anything he wanted, carried his bags. If he was going to Mexico, shock and awe. Here's a book of places. Here's a reservation. Here's where you can snorkel. Like, that's not the business I'm in.
Yes.
I provide time on jets? No. That's what everybody else was doing. Wow. This is what we're going to do. Here, I see your family's going. Here's a floaty thing for your 2-year-old. And they would get that. And I just serviced them. How was the trip? Can I help you? Here are your bags. And he was my source of referrals.
There you go.
And then the next guy came in. Same system. Same thing. Same thing. Same thing. And what was interesting about Marquis Jet,
wow.
It wasn't that we built this amazing company. It was an amazingly successful venture.
Clearly.
And but that wasn't the gold for me. The gold for me were the people that we flew. Because we flew 4,000 of the who's who of entrepreneurs, CEOs, athletes, entertainers, and I was like, wow, here I am, I'm 30 years old. I was obsessed with meeting these people and learning about their daily routines. So what I would do is, I would say like every conversation was like, what time do you get up? What do you eat? How do you spend your time? How do you live rich? How do you do this? What's a vacation look like? And I would take all these habits from these winners at the highest level and start to incorporate them in my life. And the things that worked, stuck. And the things that didn't, I got rid of them. And over time, built this system. You mentioned in the beginning, like your life resume, built this system that works for me. And as I've evolved, now I have 4 kids, my system evolves because I can't have the same system as single Jesse, 40 years old and no kids, where I have the freedom to do what I want. Now I have way more responsibilities, with my family. So the system evolves. So that was the gift.
Wow.
So that's pretty crazy. So he obviously, he has this really great mindset and he's good at communicating. So he talks to people who are successful about their habits, success habits or luxury habits, both, right? And he's willing to help. He's willing to, provide value. Like that guy he was talking about with the first jet business that he's told to him. And he was like, hey, like, how was your vacation? Can I help set you up at your hotel at this place for your trip to Mexico, this and that? But the craziest part about what I've heard so far is he did a bunch of businesses that probably helped each other and had nothing to do with each other. Although there is definitely a through line because he continued to build his business success. Like, for example, rap, NBA, coconut water, and jets. Like, all those are pretty different. So it's pretty interesting that he's, had all these very different businesses. And that story is pretty crazy too. Like he couldn't get into a TED Talks conference and decided to sell them muffins outside of the coffee shop to basically strike up a conversation with them on their lunch break because he couldn't get inside, and got his first client for a private jet company that way. I mean, it's like, obviously you can make a lot of money doing that, and this is pretty nuts. So like, I hope you guys are taking notes here.
See, for someone listening to this, and I already know what they're thinking, this is literally like an inside peek to like an absolute master class of how to do these things right here, everybody. And I just want to illustrate 2 points you made, and I want to make sure that I say them correctly. The first thing is that all of the most successful entrepreneurs I know, and obviously you're at the top of that list because there's been multiple wins. The reason I want you all listening to what Jesse covers and his social media and his content is because he's not only is he a mega successful entrepreneur, and also successful as a father, successful as an athlete of sorts, successful as an author. He's also had multiple wins. In other words, it wasn't a one-hit business wonder. This is a formula that has worked for him that he's replicated into many different business ventures. And you said something brilliant. The unique thing for the ones I see is they create an experience for their customers that is completely different than everybody else. I don't care if you're a personal trainer at a gym, you own a dry cleaners, or you own a jet brand. It's the experience, because if they don't enjoy the experience, it's not mind-blowing, they're not going to refer you to anybody, and your business can't go viral. It can't multiply, correct?
I always ask myself this one question.
Yeah, so he created. He's not a problem solver. He's not focused on the problem and solving it. He's a creator. And that's what separates like a legit entrepreneur from the other ones, like the other business owners, is actually being creative. I mean, obviously, like that was super creative to be outside of the TED Talks conference and selling them muffins to get into conversations with these high-level guys. So that is just nuts.
Would I recommend myself as fill in the blank? Would I recommend myself as a dad? Would I recommend myself as a business partner? Would I recommend myself as a coach? Would I recommend myself as a boss? And if the answer is no, why? Like why? Why wouldn't I recommend myself? And I always tell people, like, people call up, like, my kids are going to their first job. What would be the one piece of advice? Make yourself irreplaceable. Make yourself irreplaceable. If you have that relationship with the customer, if you're so important, you're incredibly valuable.
Wow, that's brilliant.
But it's true. Yep. And I ask myself a lot of questions. And that's one thing I always ask myself. Like, if let's say I go sideways with someone for some reason, I don't very often.
Right.
But if I do, would I recommend myself? What did I do?
Yeah.
And very often, I'm okay with it. And if it's something that I did, then I want to get in front of it and apologize or address it internally so it doesn't happen again.
Yep.
You mentioned something about success, and everybody has there are multiple definitions of success. If you ask 100 people, you might get 100 answers. But you touched on something I think is important to the listeners. And to me, I have a lot of different definitions. Success isn't being good in one bucket. It's not about like, I made all this money, and I know, it's easy for you to say. No, success is not about being good in one bucket. It's about being good in all the buckets.
Yeah.
All the buckets. It's about being a good dad. It's about being, good to your employees. It's about giving back in the charity bucket. It's about doing the right thing when you do it. It's about standing up for something that you see is wrong. That's success. When I see people that are mega wealthy, they're just fucking wealthy.
Yes.
No, they're just wealthy.
Yeah.
That's not what it looks like. And you don't have to be wealthy. If you're struggling in one area, you can still be good in all the other areas.
So true, man.
You can't spiral down because success, the way you look at it, isn't happening. Well, then go be successful in the other buckets and fill up your plate.
And then what it does too, by the way, I can feel you coming at me with that because you feel so strong about it. Your physiology changed too. But what also happens is and you talk a lot about this, but when you get wins in other areas, you get life momentum.
Oh.
And people I did a training on this the other day, but to me, I look at you, I go, okay, look, the thing you said about associating with these people and their habits, I didn't have a jet card company, but I joined the club where I could meet these kinds of guys. What is your schedule? What's your workout routine? How do you eat? What do you think about? How do you talk?
I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah,
Habits, you get me all fired up.
Yes.
Everything comes around your day.
Yeah.
We're talking about all these successes. They took years.
Yes.
Years.
Yes.
I remember walking into the president of Coca-Cola about the Zico thing. He's like, it takes 8 years to build a brand in this country. Of course, there's rich quick things, and now it's a little faster, but it takes time. But what the foundation of that is your daily habits. It's creating winning habits, winning routines, and a winning mindset. That's the formula.
It is.
There's no way around it.
It is.
Doesn't happen without that.
One of the unique things for me, because I completely agree, one of the things unique about you and I is we both have been creating this content for a while, and then when we looked at each other's stuff, we're like, my God, we so believe the same things. We say it a little bit differently, but we so believe the same things. One of the unbelievable things about social media or podcasts like this is that you kind of can peek into what you had at Marquee Jets doing this. If someone follows you on Instagram or follows myself, you get access nowadays to something you and I never had. You can get access daily to some of the most successful entrepreneurs in the world, or fitness people, or parents, or people of faith, or whatever your area is, through digital connection now. It's not the same as live, but it's incredible the information you can tap into now.
You are my virtual mentor. No, you are. I mean, I'm in tune to what you say. It resonates deeply with me.
Thank you.
You're in it for the right reasons. Like, there's a lot of reasons why the things you say really have stickiness with me. But you're to millions of people, you're a virtual mentor, and that's exactly your point.
Yeah.
And we didn't have that growing up.
No, we
Our
didn't.
mentor was my dad and anyone in my small town.
Yeah, me too. Don't you think part of your life, Jesse, you got some life momentum going though, right? I mean, the journey is, I think it's the most, I mean, you're a young man, but I think it's the most remarkable journey that of anybody I've talked to because of the breadth of different areas. It's just bananas to me.
Awesome, guys. So definitely a great video there, and they're bringing up a great point about finding a mentor. So this is super key because it doesn't need to be college and you following the traditional path. You could literally find an amazing mentor that will help you along the path without that too. A less traditional path. Actually, I mean, that's what people used to do before college. So it works. Right, so and there's one key thing about this. Obviously, there's a lot of people online as mentors right now. You're listening to this. I'm listening to them. And we're sharing information with each other. And one thing worth mentioning here is sometimes it's about alignment with your mentor too. Like, number one, being able to provide value to them and being willing to create for them and help them out. And number two is actually making sure that you're aligned with that mentor, like they're the right one for you. They might be successful in the area that you're looking for, and two things could be true at once. You might not be aligned. Like, I'll give you an example. In the past, I had a mentor who I was speaking to about writing music for video games, and he asked me about my goals, and I mentioned that I really wanted to write some music for some Japanese game developers. And he immediately went very old man, grumpy on me, here's another US guy. And he went, why would they pick you? I totally understand why he was saying it, by the way, but why would they pick you, over all the Japanese people, all the Japanese composers and musicians there? That's not going to happen. You're lucky to be able to write music in the first place. So don't count on it, basically. And it was all right. I immediately, I knew that we were out of alignment because I know that it's possible, and I know people that have done it. And this guy was, you know, being grumpy, and that's okay. I mean, you know, again, like, we don't have to align, and that's why, you know, I went on to find other mentors that were more aligned with me and had a higher frequency, a positive frequency. So I'm saying that to say I want you guys to keep an eye out on that as well, because that is really going to boost your success, is having someone you can really learn from, and you can help each other, really. All right, guys, so thanks for listening. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. You got this, bro.